Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin Show. It is your Monday edition. As you guys have can't even talk today. As you saw in the description of the show today, I am only going to be doing a show today, as well as Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I am off to Las Vegas, hence the wonderful graphic here created by AI. And yes, that was that the first time I went to Vegas Money Show? Maybe. I asked Mid-Journey to create a graphic of, and I typed in my name, thinking it might be able to pull a graphic from the internet. Shows me getting ready for a trip to Las Vegas, and that's the picture that came up. And you know what's kind of funny is I think I may actually have that suit. I think I do have that one in my closet somewhere. I don't know whether I'm going to wear a real flashy suit or a professional one. I'll probably go with something annoyingly flashy because I'm a dork like that, and be who you are, right? I'm a nerd and like to dress weird, so hey, deal with it, people. Anyway, I'm going to Vegas. As you guys know, I'm going to be doing the Money Show. For anyone who wants to connect while we're up there, I am doing a presentation on Wednesday from 1:15 to 2 p.m. I think afterwards, some people are getting together. I'll know more at that presentation. And then if you emailed me or you're in the presentation, and we'll coordinate something there and go have some drinks or some food after that. So it should be a lot of fun. Wear that one, Lori? Maybe. Oh, my do? You talking about this do? You can thank this for, this is done by, I have a story behind this haircut, and I think you're going to love it. It was done by a dog grooming tool. Yep, I cut my hair with the dog grooming tool. Pretty awesome. Anyway, it's a pretty funny story, but I'm not going to waste your time with that one. Let's dive into what happened in our markets today. We have some pretty interesting things going on, particularly with earnings, but I'm going to start with the bottom of the list here, work our way up from bottom to top. Crude oil was your weakest performer. We talked about that coming into overhead supply, and dab nabbit, we were in the middle of it as of Friday's session. You can see that little candlestick forming today, which was just slightly down to 0.39%. So, hey, does this mean we're going to get that follow through to the downside? I don't know. I kind of feel like we are, but as we sit in the middle of the zone right now, even though we tiptoed below it, I still do feel a little bit bearish. Just feeling like there needs to be a bigger pullback in crude oil, even though long term I am bullish on it because it's been a level that has not been able to get above for almost a year now. So definitely thinking that there's a little bit more downside movement here for crude oil, but we didn't get much follow through today. 82.50 is where we closed at for crude oil. Gold, I did add to my silver position today, at least from a puts perspective. I have a pretty good position that I've built. I just added to more in another account. I went another 40 contracts sold 40 puts, and I did the 21 strikes expiring next week again, just because I think SLV, let me bring up SLV here. I think SLV did what we thought it was going to do. We said if it gets down below this yellow box, it's probably going to drop straight down to that $21 mark, and here we are right now at $21.21. Again, long term, I'm bullish on silver, so I was fine collecting a good amount of premium just for a couple of days. Actually, less than 2 weeks, collected over 1% premium today on SLV for those $21 strikes. So all in all, feeling pretty good about that. But anyway, that wasn't our normal one. Let's go to gold. Down 0.24% right now from a technical perspective. There's nothing here that excites me or interests me about gold other than a long-term holding opportunity. Even though it was down, not much to do from a technical perspective. Your dollar index. Now, as you can see here, we're rolled into in our Monday session here. Someone sent me an email asking if this is a shooting star. Again, it's not a shooting star unless it's near the top of an uptrend, and it's not the case now for that dollar index. It's really just an everyday candle. Now, does it still mean that there's weakness in it? Yes, of course it does. Because at one point, this was a giant green candle, and at the end of the day, it was a very small one. So sellers won that battle and pushed it back down. But it doesn't have the energy or emotion in it that it would if it was sitting at the very top or at the very bottom of an uptrend or downtrend. Russell 2000 coming in fifth place, up 0.18%. Again, spinning top formation, nothing really going on. If you look at the levels for the past 3 weeks on the RUT, or the RTY, I always call it the RUT. Old habits die hard. We've hit this level right around 1958 on the RTY futures. Once, twice, 3, 4. Today was the 5th time that we actually dipped below it today, but managed to close above it. So until we get a close below that 1958 mark, I would be cautiously optimistic that Russell would move to the upside here. But if we get a close below that, then you have to start to shift your stance. Our uptrend has been intact since the beginning of March. So all in all, looking fairly decent here. Moving up to Bitcoin, a little bit of a pop today, but not much, 0.7%, still just traversing sideways. And if I look at it over the past month and a half, weakness, slowly drifting lower. Now, as John O'Donnell pointed out, you heard about Michael Saylor buying potentially another $750 million worth of Bitcoin. You also have some of these spot ETFs are now pushing. I read something today that the ARK fund, Kathy Wood, is now, there's something, I don't know whether she sued or something happened where they have to give her a yes or no decision on the ETF by August 13th, which, of course, anything that happens that would create a legal spot Bitcoin ETF for the U.S. markets would act as a very big catalyst for Bitcoin going forward. But just looking at the price chart right now, Bitcoin feels like it's losing steam, not really losing a lot of, or not really gaining much momentum here. And if you look at volume, the volume is misleading here, guys, because this is from one exchange. This is CME Bitcoin Futures, but you can see volume has been declining and getting weaker and weaker. If I go to the spot market, which is right... Oh, it's going to take me a sec to find the Bitcoin. If you go to the spot market, you can see volume is also drifting lower and lower and lower. And that's usually not a good sign. When you get really low volume like that, you want excitement and energy and a security. But for right now, just looks like a slow drift lower. I don't think it's going to be catastrophic, but slowly drifting lower. NASDAQ 100. Now, I actually thought, as we mentioned last week, that I thought it was going to come back down and hit this demand zone right between 15,200 and 15,068. Today, bounced right back up, so showing a bit of strength there, moving back up. You know, the Russell had a similar picture, but the Russell didn't break below those recent lows, whereas the NASDAQ did. Now, of course, today you have some of our big tech stocks moving things to the upside. Well, it happens. I don't know how long that will last or if it gets pushed even further. We'll talk about earnings here in just a second, like Palantir. We're reporting earnings today, and that was another roller coaster ride, which I'll show you in just a second. That was your third place was NASDAQ. Second place is S&P 500 with an even better looking day at 0.94%. It also broke those lows that have been traversing sideways for a couple of weeks, and now maybe a little bit of a bounce back up, but again, I still think we're headed towards these lows to 4,445 to 4,400. That's the target there. But the SEC can push that to 2024 if they want to, so unfair. Yeah, what they'll do, Lisa, is they'll probably just deny it and say it doesn't meet our requirements. That's the easy thing they can do. But remember, the more that they do this, the more that the SEC continually declines a Bitcoin ETF without really clear, substantial evidence as to why they're declining it. At some point, there could be much bigger legal action and regulatory issues where people go after the SEC for stonewalling here and preventing it from coming to market when we already have Bitcoin futures ETFs. So what's the big deal? Who cares? What's the difference between a Bitcoin futures ETF and a spot ETF? It's really not that big of a deal from a consumer's perspective. Oh, well, futures are traded on exchange and crypto's kind of out in this ether. Well, they're still buying and holding physical Bitcoin, so it should be the same thing. So I imagine not just from companies lawsuits coming, but also our political leaders are going to start to go after them a little bit. The government definitely owns Bitcoin. I don't think they sold all the Silk Road Bitcoin. I think they still have some of that, but they've been seizing others in different events. And lastly, your best yield on your number one, which now just rolled over the new session, was your 10-year bond. You can see that nice little green candle there from a pure percentage perspective, moved up about 1.36% on the day. So all in all, a great day for yield. Equity markets look pretty decent across the board. Commodities like gold, silver, and crude oil, not so well. Let's see. Let me go into the earnings calendar. So here is your earnings calendar for today. To do a lot of forecasting here because we don't have all the shows this week. But you had Skyworks report earnings today. You had CRISPR Therapeutics, and then let me go and show you the PLTR. So they were in line with expectations. And after hours, there was a lot of discussion about Palantir. I was listening to a couple of people. PLTR. So you see today on Palantir had a really long, I don't know why I had this line at $17.11. Maybe it's just the peak from this line. I was like, wow, it hit that perfectly today. So you have actually a massive hammer formation right now on the PLTR, Palantir. What's noteworthy for me, if anyone looking to trade this one, is what happened in the after-hours session. So it actually sold off dramatically after that earnings announcement. I'll show you this. All right, so here is where it closed at. Closing at $17.99, and at one point it had a low price of, I'll take off $2. So it dropped 12% on earnings. That earnings announcement dropped at 12%, and since that release and low, it's up 17.5%. So Palantir doing crazy things. I was listening to one analyst really kind of hammering the point about how they're not really an AI type of company. They're not going for the generative AI. They're using artificial intelligence, but generative AI is really where most people are focusing on, and that's going to get you towards your Microsoft and your ChatGPT. So he was actually really negative on Palantir, which I thought was somewhat interesting. However, on the grand scheme of things, does this make it a buying opportunity? Well, that's the ultimate question. I think, I got one on that one? Yeah, Thomas asked me what was my trade plan. So, Thomas, you asked what's my trade plan for PLTR for Tuesday. Earnings are wild. I'm not going to be trading PLTR. It's not what I'll be doing tomorrow. Oh, sorry. Here's the question from Thomas, so you guys can see that one. If anything, if it wasn't up already in the after-hours session, it's a pretty easy trade for me if it didn't have the big pop. So what I mean by that is, I love hammer formations. To me, this is a hammer formation because it's after a 4-day downward trend. It'd be great if it was into an area of demand, but it's not. It would also be great if this volume was much higher, but I think you could agree it's definitely higher than what looks to be the average, right? So there's certainly some emotion in there, and we'll probably see that pop up tomorrow when it rolls into the new trading session and we get all the big institutional orders and liquidity coming in on the open. So for me, it'd have to open down below 1839 and then rally to the upside. But in this case, I don't think that's going to happen. It's already at 1860, and I have a feeling this thing's going to continue to move on up here based off their positive comments about markets going forward and AI, and they raise their forecast. So I have a feeling you'll see this thing with no trade opportunity really for tomorrow. Now, one that was of interest for me was Tyson. So I think you guys saw what happened. Tyson Foods, they were down massively today, and I had my finger on the trigger. I was actually going to be selling some puts to go out 90 days. I was going to go out until to go to September on these ones, and I just didn't pull it. The premium was great. I don't know. Maybe I just chickened out. I got too much on my plate. But at one point, Tyson Foods was down about almost 12%, called 11.25%. And I was like, okay, if it gets down to the 49 mark, I'll be comfortable selling those puts at 49 and owning it at those lows. Because when I zoom out on the big scheme of things, I think I'd be happy owning it down around those lows. I mean, it hasn't been there since 2000. Well, one time in 2020 during COVID, and then all the way back into 2015. So I would feel, based off that, I'm buying value here, and food is going to be around. Food's not going away. It's not like they're like, oh, food's done. AI is dead, but so is food. But I didn't pull that trigger on that one today. I'm kicking myself because this would have been just a real easy trade for today. But anyway, just showing you what I was looking at and some of the stuff. Ties closing 4 chicken plants, and Merlin chickened out. Buck, buck. I sure did. Not 90 days, Liz. I'm speaking too quickly. 30 days is typically the maximum I will go, but in this case, I didn't want to sell the August 18th ones. I thought that was a bit too close, so I went to the September one. So it would be really about 6 weeks is the time frame there. All right, what else did I have coming through here today? Oh, you know what? I did have an interesting question yesterday, or actually Friday's session. Someone asked me about BlockFi. So I wanted to just real quickly explain something. I had the email here. Let me look it up without sharing it with everybody. Rudy, he says, I just got an email from BlockFi and is wondering if you can go over the external wallet for withdrawing funds. I guess they're talking about a wallet like Ledger. So let me show you just real quick for today what you do with this type of thing. So if you look here, this is BlockFi, which of course is pretty much dead. Don't open a BlockFi account. Don't do anything with BlockFi. Leave them alone. But let's say you have some money here, and I currently have like $420 sitting there, so I guess I do have something here. I could move it off. If they open up that window, and there's no real clear decision as to when they're going to do that, then you would go up here to your account window, which says MR in the upper right-hand corner. That's my initials. You go to Profile Settings, and you'll see Crypto Addresses. So if you notice that one, the crypto addresses here is where you would whitelist your stuff. So you could simply go and click on Add an Address, and this is where you would type in your destination address. So let's say, for example, I wanted to send this to Coinbase. Okay, I go over here to Coinbase. Here's my Coinbase account, hopefully, and you click on Deposit. So once you click on Deposit, it's asking you what you would like to deposit. I can deposit Bitcoin, US dollars, or USDC. So I'll click on Bitcoin, and notice it right away just gives me my Bitcoin address. There it is. So I copy that, go to BlockFi, Nickname, we'll call this Coinbase. I'm going to say Bitcoin, and I'm going to add that address right there. So now it's going to ask me for two-factor authentication. Once I do this, it's now going to take probably a few days, but I would encourage you to do it now, sooner rather than later, just because if they do allow that withdraw, take your money out immediately, because who knows what's going to happen. But now I've added this whitelist address, invalid verification. Okay, that didn't work, but 7 days from now, they will allow me to access that. I can now send my Bitcoin from my BlockFi account to my Coinbase account or whatever wallet you decide to establish. So that's the real simple way to do it. Keep checking. And again, if you have the opportunity, you should withdraw immediately all of the crypto that you can, because, you know, they're not the best looking right now with Coinbase. You don't know what's going to happen with your crypto or how that's all going to pan out. So there you go. Oh, there's Rudy's email. I thought I put it in the slides, but there's our email overall. What do I think of Figs and Pags? Sounds like British food company. FIGS. So again, I had no idea what they do. And again, Michael, you're hearing a recurring theme for me. This looks like garbage. If you take a tennis ball and you drop it on the ground and it bounces once, great. If that's a really strong tennis ball and there's enough air in it, it'll get really close to the previous high. If it's weak, it won't bounce as high. And notice every time this thing bounces, it gets lower and lower and lower. So this thing looks like it's just on a slow death, even though it had a big pop the other day. It's a downward looking chart. The trend is lower, lower, lower. If you're looking to buy things, you should always be looking for things that are trending up, right? You find yourself in one of two camps. You're either going to be the guy who's bottom fishing and looking for those super beaten down deals, and you might have success once in a while. Or you go with winners and you buy ones that have the exact opposite chart of this. You buy things that are in a nice uptrend and you buy the pullbacks in demand. If you want to know the probability, which one's got a better probability of you making money, there's no question, and no one can refute this at all, it will be going with the stocks that are moving up. Now, if you're asking me about shorting, yeah, I'd say this looks like a good short. Why? Because it just keeps going lower, lower, and I don't even know what this company does. They could make fig Newtons for all I care. So there you go. What was the other one you wanted? Pigs? You guys said Figs and Pags. P-A-G-S. Similar. Doing nothing. Right? Pog, Seguro, not doing anything. And at least this one's stabilized and actually starting to make higher lows, so it's better than Figs was doing. But until it starts to make some new highs, I'm just not interested. I want to be holding things that are moving and trending to the upside. So there you go, Michael. What stocks do you own from selling puts? Do you ever hang on to them, or do you get rid of them via covered calls? Great question, Tom. I have a bunch, and then they ultimately get taken away. So what am I holding right now? I have a SLV. My UNG was taken away from me. My Boyle was taken away from me. God, I'm trying to think of all my accounts right now. I do have another position open. I can't think off the top of my head which one that one is, that I received because of puts. So if I get them and those shares are exercised to me, I'll evaluate what's going on with that at that moment in time. And most likely I'm going to sell calls against that position. Yeah, so I just have SLV. I had sold puts. I'd sold 40 puts on SLV. Those were put to me. So I have 4,000 shares in my account. And ultimately that will... I already sold calls against that. I sold the 24 calls when it was surging up to 23. Great, fine. Just wanted to lock in a little bit of extra profit on that. If it gets taken away, fine. I don't care. So at this point, right now, I don't have any other ones. I sold some puts on Fortinet. I didn't sell on Boyle. Boyle exited last Friday. And I think that's it for these accounts. I'm looking at 3 different accounts over here that I are active with. Yeah, that's it. So typically, per Tom's question, what stocks do you own from selling puts? Right now, just SLV. Do you ever hang on to them, or do you get out of them via cover calls? I'll hold on to them unless I feel like, all hell is broken loose and that situation looks way worse than I thought. Then I'll just sell it, take the loss, and move on. But typically, like Lisa and Margaret would say on this channel, I am definitely going and I'm selling those puts at a price I would like to own it. And if I get it, I'll get it. So for example, we talked about Fortinet, FTNT. Let me go check the exact strike price on this one. So where's my, switch over the other account and we'll go FTNT. So when it was plummeting on Friday's session, I sold a bunch of puts. 55 was my strike. I thought I got 54, but I did collect $1 on it, so I'm fine with that. Which means my average price is 54. And you notice I've got this red line. 33.78 is where that red line is, and I'm okay. That's where I would okay be owning that one. I think it's going to close that gap and then bounce from there. If it doesn't get there, fine, right? I will gladly keep the premium, which in this case, since I've sold the 55s, I got basically a 2% premium for 2 weeks. Not bad. 2% for 2 weeks, I can do that. And again, this is not the whole account. I'm just doing a portion of the account. I'll never go everything all in my accounts unless it was the S&P from 2020. Then in that account, I went all in and took a big loss there. So I generally will be happy if I own this at 54, right? Because I own it at 55, but my average price would be 54 because the premium I collected. And then, if it really starts to fall from there, then I'll reevaluate. But with Fortinet, I like Larry's analysis. I talked to Larry a bit more offline about it, and it may be one of those ones I just hold and sell calls against it. So let's say I do hypothetically get this thing on the 18th of August when my puts expire, and now my average price is 54. Maybe I'll sell calls at like 60 just to get a little extra premium, but I really don't think I want to sell it. I think in the long haul, I'll be okay holding those shares for the next couple of years. And I'm typically not a long-term holder like that, but again, if I can buy something at a 20% discount that has pretty good upside potential, I may hold on to it a little bit longer. Let's see, where's the second part? So when you say I don't mind owning, you mean covered calling? Correct. So if I feel really strongly that something's really going to move up, then I'm probably not going to sell the covered calls. So I'll use this as an example. Now let's say I got it here at 54. If I feel really strongly that in the next 30 days this thing's going to get to 60 and go from 54 to 60, then I'm probably going to sell like the 61, 62, 60. I'll sell the calls if I can get some sort of premium, just a couple extra bucks for nothing. Great. And if it gets up to 65 where I sold my calls and it takes it away, well, I'm bummed because I'm going to miss all the gains above 65, but I also did well because my average price is 54, got out at 65. That means I made $11 per share plus the premium I collected. So that's how I look at it, Tom. If I'm really think it's going to rally aggressively, then I'll usually will sell the calls anyway, just at a much higher strike price. And sometimes if I can't get any premium, I'll hold off. Let's see, what did the market say? Like Google strategy. If you sell an option and it gets exercised on the same day, does this count as a day trade? Oh. You sell an option and it gets exercised. No. Not a round trip transaction. So a day trade is considered a round trip transaction. That's a buy and a sell. So if I sold those puts, let's say I was doing zero DTE expirations, and I sold the puts, I'm receiving the shares if I get exercised. So if I sell those shares afterwards, then that's a round trip trade. So to my understanding of the rule, it would not be a round trip trade if I sold options, sold puts, for example, and those shares were put to me at the end of the day. That would not be a round trip trade because I didn't complete that transaction. The options trade is done, but the equity trade is not. And that's what they'll call a day trade. Let's see, Margaret, and it moves below your demand zone. Do you sell calls? Again, depends on what that scenario looks like. So for in this case, I'm confident on Fortinet for the near future. If it's something like, also with Anheuser-Busch, I do think that this got way blown over. I think people got way too deep in the weeds on how bad this is going to impact them. I think there's a huge misconception by investors that this is Anheuser-Busch exclusively. And again, we've talked about this many times. There's 500 other beers, and this is a portion of the portfolio. So yes, it's going to do some damage, but nowhere near what I think most people are expecting. I mean, I talked to so many people that don't trade. I'm like, Budweiser's going to get killed, dude. They're going to lose everything. They're going to go bankrupt. No, man. Not a chance. No way. No way. So, I would probably hold on to this one too. If it's something more aggressive like we had in the past, like, I'm trying to think of some examples, but if it's something I'm kind of shaky on and maybe I'm trying to capitalize on a pain moment, meaning something's gapped down significantly, I'm looking and I'm selling puts there, and I get exercised, I may have to jump ship right away if I feel like it's something like AMC or GME, right? If I got to put GameStop or AMC shares, I'm probably going to dump those things right away, just be out of it, because I think their garbage are going to go to zero. Other companies like Budweiser, Fortinet, I think there's probably going to be a little bit more staying power and things moving up to the upside there. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. But as soon as and again, remember, I have many accounts, and most of the ones I'm referencing here are going to be using options, generating premium. So if that's the case, if I own something long, I'll typically look to get a little bit of extra premium by selling calls against that position. Target, Dave, I'm still okay with Target. I think, apologize for sounding so cynical, but I think that the average American person has a somewhat limited memory, and they're addicted to shopping. So they may look at Target and then short term and go, Target's screwed up, all their whatever rainbow clothes and all this transgender clothing for kids, whatever the case may be, whether you're for or against it, doesn't matter at all. Just says people are going to boycott them temporarily because of those actions. And it could be boycotting Taco Bell. It could be boycotting whatever. At a certain point, if you live near a Target, you're going to go to Target. You're going to go back and be like, oh, you know what? I need something from Target. Even though I'm pissed off at them for what they did, I'll go back there and go shopping. It's fine. And next thing you know, it just goes back to normal. And I use this example of the NFL, which triggered some of you. I actually got some emails getting on my case about it. But for the most part, when Colin Kaepernick did his thing, there were so many people like, I'm never watching the NFL. I'll never go back. I was frustrated with it too. I was like, I just want to watch you guys play football. It's my release. I don't need to want to think about all this political, religion, whatever. Just give me sports. Let me watch grown men beat each other up over a little piece of pigskin. Most people I know that were all up in arms about it are back to watching football. Now, there certainly are some that are going to never watch that sport again, and that's my point here, is with Target, you have so many people who are up in arms about it. Same with Anheuser-Busch. Over time, they'll go back and start shopping at Target, and they may not drink Bud Light again, although I think, as I mentioned before, if Anheuser-Busch just stopped talking about this, right? Stop talking about the Dylan Mulvaney thing. Don't go on The View or, some Good Morning America and talk about your decision and why you think it was right. Just shut up about it. Let it blow over. And ultimately, you'll get back on track. So, anyway. Yeah, you're not going to drive an extra 5 miles to go to Walmart when Target is... True, Oliver. I mean, hey, some people, retail therapy is I think an actual condition. When people get depressed or stressed out, like, I'm just gonna go shop, and they go through Target, and they're what's bugging in the world will go away. I think these are psychological help centers, having Target and Walmart. Granted, some of the people that go into Walmart, boy, if you ever want some fun, I think there's a website called The People of Walmart. Oh man, it's always worth a good laugh. Yep, Margaret, I do. I'm definitely stand for the national anthem. Hey, seeing this 500-point rise in Bitcoin, and you probably said something about it. Well, look, Bitcoin's going to have 500-point rises, 500-point drops. I'm not that concerned about it. I had it up on my. Let me move that here. So here's why I didn't get so excited about it. You're talking about this nice rally we've had from 29,000 up to 29.2, but it just sold off from 29.2 down to 21. So, I mean, it's all over the place. I don't get too excited about what goes on with Bitcoin anymore. I'm just kind of, it is what it is. Let it run. I was kind of a little bit bearish on it because we broke that level I had addressed, which was 29,740 was my kind of line. And we're now below that for a better part of 2 weeks. So I'm not that positive on Bitcoin right now, to be honest. I'm kind of actually nervous because we have such a long way to drop till we get to this real origin of the move, which happened on June 15th, and that's down around 24,700. That's $5,000 away from here. So it makes me a little bit nervous there. Ricardo says, or you can do a poor man's covered call. Yeah, you guys laugh at me about the poor man's covered call. It's not some. It's funny. I heard about that one for the first time. When was that? I don't know. 6 months ago or so. I'm very simple, Ricardo, with what I do. How do you like PLT after earnings and close them saying doing $1 billion buyback? Yeah, we talked about that one already, Michael, with PLTR. We didn't talk about the buyback, but they're going to do a buyback, $1 billion. That always drives share price up, which is why I don't think you're going to get a chance to trade off that hammer formation that you see forming on PLTR. So I'm not going to buy into it. I kind of thought about potentially buying in, but I'm a little bit wary of AI stocks right now. I think that the AI stocks have gotten a little bit too much hype. I think they're getting a little too overpriced. Part of the presentation I'm going to be giving for Las Vegas deals with going back to the dot-com bubble. And back then, there were so many, you just had to say that you're involved in the internet or the World Wide Web, which came out. By the way, guys, who is credited as creating the World Wide Web? That's a trivia question coming up here in a couple weeks on my trivia on Tuesdays. No problem, Michael. Hope all went well with the doctor. When you look at those innovations, a lot of those companies that came through, and I'm building out a portfolio for my example, for my Vegas presentation, and the vast majority of companies failed. Now, I don't know if Palantir is going to be one of those that fail, but there's always that possibility. So I think we got our valuations a little too lofty too quick because of what happened with ChatGPT, and all of a sudden AI just went ballistic. I think you'll get a pullback and maybe weed out some of the participants. Some new ones are going to rise up, but I've kind of felt a little bit nervous about jumping into AI right now from a long-term perspective. Active trading is fine with me. I'm fine to trade it. Guy's name is Tim Berners-Lee, is the one who created the internet. Oops, sorry. Yeah, Tim Berners-Lee created the internet. Actually, he was coined as the one who came up with the term World Wide Web. Now, before then, there were all kinds of different iterations of it. They used different languages. Department of Defense, realistically, yes, you could say the DoD came up with the concept of sending messages back and forth through a network, a closed network, and then it became more open. But the World Wide Web term was coined by Tim Berners-Lee, and he's credited with being the one who created the internet, which is kind of a misnomer. He didn't really create the internet. He just came up with the World Wide Web idea, and then it just blew up for everybody. And it all, it's interesting. There were all sorts of different mechanisms that you could communicate from computer to computer. Those were around, but they used different protocols. And when they settled on a common protocol, that's when the internet really blew up and became kind of universal language for the whole world. Let's see, Al Gore. Al Gore. He takes the credit, sure. Yeah. He created everything. Let's see what else we got. All right, good. So I think I covered most of those questions out there. I talked about the transferring for Rudy. We got the Bitcoin side of things. Other than that, I don't have too much on my plate. I am really, again, just focusing on my presentation for Las Vegas. Now, I have received a bunch of emails from people asking me how they can watch it. And they're not going to be streaming the Vegas presentation. So what I might do is I might work with OTA, and I'll let you guys know maybe next week how this pans out. But I'm going to see if I can get OTA to do a version for OTA grads, because I think it might be an interesting presentation for you. It's really, as you saw from my marketing material that they put up there for me, it's building a crypto portfolio to prepare for the future. And I'm a real big believer that we are in the midst of watching a major transition in the way that things are done with regards to currency and anything to do with physical ownership of assets. And that is built off of cryptography. So that's part of the reason I'm doing this presentation, building a crypto portfolio to prepare for the future. It's saying, look, there's things that we can do today, regardless of how enthusiastic or pessimistic you are, whichever side of that spectrum you are on, doesn't matter, but you can start to add a little bit to your portfolio based off of which piece you think might be the biggest benefactor. So if you look back to the dot-com bubble, who did you guys think was going to be if you could rewind, and it's not going to really work as an experiment because all of you know what happened, but if you could rewind and go back to pre-2000 and think, what company, which market segment do I think would be good to buy into if I was on the internet, or buying in the internet? It'd be tricky. It'd be real tricky. Right now, I think we'd all look back and go, Amazon, duh. That's the biggest one. And if you said Google or Netscape, Netflix, Facebook, those all came out after 2000. So you look at the companies that came out before that, do you think it's selling pet food online? Right, that was one of them. Pets.com, gone, bankrupt, disappeared. You think it's internet security like Exodus Communications and making sure there's network reliability? Gone, disappeared. You think it's Global Crossing, who is setting up all this infrastructure? We could have high-speed internet connections all around the world. Went to zero. So you don't know exactly who is going to be the winner in an innovative cycle. So if you look at the AI cycle that's going on right now, MySpace wasn't publicly traded though. And if you look at it, MySpace it's almost the same thing as Facebook. People made it this big deal, like Facebook created something so unbelievably innovative. I was like, MySpace was I thought the exact same thing. You could have friends on there. You could rate people, thumbs up, thumbs down. You like different stuff. Blockbuster, yeah, gone to zero, right? And again, you just don't know which ones are going to make it and which ones aren't. So that's kind of why I'm talking about building this portfolio. And then it's about choosing segments. So in the .com thing, yeah, I think some online retailers would have been important ones. Knowing what I know now, I would have gone and looked for streaming media, right? Who's going to be the leader in that one? Webmail, web hosting, hosted applications, right? And that's the important right there, right, Tom? Because you basically said 3 different market segments. So if I'm back in pre-2000 and I have the same sort of vision as I do today with crypto, back then for the .com era, I could create lists and say, okay, here's online retailers. Who are the big ones there that I think are going to make it? Who is the best for webmail and web hosting and hosted applications? Who are the leaders in those spaces? And I build that portfolio accordingly. And that's kind of how I'm approaching this thing for Las Vegas, is saying there's hundreds of market segments that we could look at. And I'm building mine with specific goals for those segments, and I think that's the important way to build a portfolio. So anyway, I will try to do one that's just for Online Trading Academy students, just for those of you who get a chance to miss it, or maybe we'll even open the door to anybody, I don't know, or maybe I'll even ask them if I can get their permission to do that presentation for you guys here on the Trader Merlin show, but that will be down the road. Wait, AI created the information superhighway with many on-ramps planned all over the place. Yeah, I don't know what I got there. I would watch that. I hope OTA will. Yeah, they probably will. They will. Lisa. It's either that we do it for OTA under with their site and everything, or I just do it on my own. One way or another, I will get a chance. I know some of you can't make it to Vegas. Who can make it to Vegas on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I know a couple of you are coming, so that's great. We're looking forward to seeing you, but many of you can't. Maybe I'll see if I can get to do a physical on-location class. That would be fun for me. I'd like to teach this stuff in person, which is why I'm really excited about going to Las Vegas to do it. Web hosting and hosted applications are known as the cloud. Yes, not all of them, but now you're synonymous with the cloud, correct? And you would look at who became the big leaders in the cloud, right? There wasn't a new name that popped up as far as leading in cloud. It was Amazon, Microsoft, it's Google. And Apple. Those are kind of the big leaders in cloud. Now, there certainly are some other ones. What do you have? Snowflake, with recent publicly traded. But yeah, I think we're very fortunate that, well, at least I think I'm very fortunate to have lived through the .com, so I know what happened there and kind of can learn from that one. And now I have the crypto one, and then you also have the AI revolution, which I'm not as immersed in it as I am with the crypto side of things. I'm more fascinated with crypto. I think that's more broad, all-encompassing. It's going to impact every single person on Earth. AI is going to impact many things, but I think there's more opportunity with crypto from an investment perspective. I know it was supposed to be 105 on Wednesday, and that's why I love being in Vegas, right? You go to Vegas, you don't need to worry. I can literally go from hotel to hotel and never set foot outside. No problem, Lori. OTA location out here in New Jersey. Well, I wouldn't be doing that one. Maybe at some point down the road. I'd talk to them about maybe be going on the road and doing a little bit of traveling for them. But if I did, it'd probably be here in the Irvine office because it's so close to my office. All right, let me run through your stuff that's happening for this week. And we'll go to your earnings calendar to begin with. Obviously, I'm not doing a show tomorrow, as we mentioned, but you have 1,500 companies reporting in the next 3 days. So here is your Tuesday session. You do have Eli Lilly, UPS, Take-Two Interactive, Under Armour. Those are some of the bigger names reporting there. On Wednesday, for those of you who are excited, I know we got Canopy Growth, which is, they'll just move this down the road. Canopy Growth, everyone talked about how great they were and how big they are. They're only $290 million. They're actually relatively small. The big one that's going to be of most interest here is going to be Disney. Check out the chart of DIS. Disney has just been falling apart. It does not look good at all right now. I mean, it's terrible. It's sad to think that let's go to a monthly here on Disney. If you bought Disney back in 2014 as a long-term investment, that's 9 years you didn't make a damn thing. Zero. Zippity and doodah. That's pretty bad. Zippity and doodah, that's not quite a Disney. Zippity doodah, zippity. I don't think that was Disney. Anyway, they're probably the big name coming out this week that I'm interested in. The question for myself is, am I going to buy some Disney? They were up at 200. Now they're at 86. Do I mind owning Disney long term? Let me ask you guys that. Do you guys would you mind owning Disney long term? So Margaret says too many political battles. Yeah, you've got the issue going on with DeSantis in Florida. You have their physical parks, which I think will always do well, right? Those are just ingrained in kids' minds. You got to go to Disneyland. You got to spend, 6 months' salary to spend a weekend in Disney. Ridiculous. I think the parks will do fine. For me, the big wild card is their media, right? Disney Channel, Disney Plus. I had so many friends who talking about how they want to buy Disney because of Disney Plus. Look, I had Disney Plus as a trial with the phone that I got. I think I got it for 6 months for free. In 6 months, I watched everything on Disney. They're not creating new content. I mean, they are creating new content, but not in the volume that I'm getting from an Amazon. Amazon produces tons of content, or Paramount, right? Or Netflix. So I don't know. I just feel like unless you have kids and you constantly want to be playing Disney movies over and over at home, yeah, I don't know. Even the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but yeah, I'm not going to watch them all again. So right now I might move away from Disney. It's I'm looking at that price chart. I want to buy some. My gut thinks long term it'll be okay, but you're down over 50% in just the past year and a half. Makes me a little apprehensive about buying it. So, if it gets down to $28, I'll be buying. I'll mark my words. I will buy a lot of Disney if it gets to $28 because I don't think Disney can go out of business. It's just too big, too much. You've held Disney since 24-28. That's not a date formula. I know they're less. I'm not sure what you mean by 24-28. Oh, $24.28. I was thinking a date. Sorry, I'm a dork. Oh man, Les. Okay, so if you own that from $24.28, hold on a second. Hold up, Les. I'm coming after you right now in a nice way. If you held it from $24.28 and we rallied up to $200, why are you still holding at 86? Where is your stop loss here? Could you got out at 150 and been like, this is fine, good? That's trade management. You're leaving a lot of money on the table. And of course, you know that. You don't need me to tell you there. What streaming channels do I subscribe to? I want to get rid of some, but it's funny. I'm sharing with some people. So I personally pay for Amazon. I pay for Netflix. And then I have a friend that pays for Hulu and Paramount. And we just multiple. Now, Netflix made it a little bit tougher. So we had to add an extra account for $7 a month to allow them to use the account. But yeah, until they all start sharing everything. Oh, long term. Okay, so there's tax consequences there. Okay, cool. Does Disney have writers on the picket line? No clue. But I'll probably cut back on some of those streaming services, Margaret. I'll always be an Amazon Prime member because I shop at Amazon so much. Just the shipping savings I get is well worth it. Tom says Disney's struggling with what to do with Snow White and the Seven Virtues. I just watched The Huntsman last night, or this Huntsman Part 2. Great graphics, interesting movie, but anyway. So that is your, we got you up to Wednesday with your earnings calendar. Let me get you into the tail end of the week, at least to Thursday, which is also some big names that you might recognize. Here we go. You got Alibaba, you got Aurora Cannabis, so there's your Cronus and CBC competitor. And that's pretty much it. There's no really major names reporting on Thursday. Yeah, that's it. And then Friday, I'll be back to do a show. Now, as far as your economic calendar, you do have some really good stuff happening. Thursday, I won't be doing a show, but you'll notice here for tomorrow, you have trade balance numbers and inventory data. Okay, no big deal. Wednesday, no big deal for the U.S. Of course, you have the crude oil inventories and the 10-year bond auction. Meh. It's Thursday morning when it really starts to heat up again, and that is right here. You've got CPI numbers coming out at 5:30 in the morning Eastern time. That's 1 hour before markets open. Again, a lot of attention on this. There is expectations that we're going to see our CPI and our PPI numbers tick back to the upside. Notice right here, the year-over-year growth for CPI is expected to go from 3% to 3.3%, which is a big change from what we've seen. We've seen it consistently decline. There has not been an up month in CPI since, what date is this one? 1 second. Since July of last year. So it's been 1 year we have not seen the CPI year-over-year growth number go up at all. It's just been down. And we've had some pretty big drops recently, and now they're expecting it to jump up here to 3.3. So that will be interesting to see what ultimately comes out there. That could create a lot of moves on your Thursday session. And you also, on top of that, you have Let me bring up the FOMC calendar here because that one has been drifting a little bit, right? We've seen some slight changes here with the FOMC Fed Funds Futures calendar. Any word on marijuana stocks? They just look bad. You know, it feels like every now and again they get a small little rally and it gets positive and then just crushes right back down. So I still have not jumped back in. Song from the South. Huh. All right. Thanks, Les. Les, you must be a Disney fan. Down there in Cape Canaveral, you probably hit up Disney World, which I am a fan of Disney World, but glad I went before all the mayhem happens. Anyway, here is our probabilities for the September 20th meeting. So we got, a little over a month before our next FOMC meeting. You can see right now it's 85% chance they're going to see it stay exactly where it's at, and only a 14.5% chance that's going to get raised another 25 basis points. So, yeah, it's been drifting lower on the raise number, but it popped up here in the last 24 hours. And I think that you'll see really clear, a better idea of what happens on Friday when we get the PPI and CPI numbers released. This might change and see these numbers change here. Awesome. Yeah, if I lived down there, I probably would too. Fun place, but damn expensive, man. Whew, Lord. Okay, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to wrap things up. Again, I will not be doing a show tomorrow. I know all of you guys know that, but I'm just repeating for anybody who may have joined late. I will be in Las Vegas, and if you are going to be there, you can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. I will be presenting at 1:15 to 2 p.m. on Wednesday. I don't know what room or location, but I'll be in the, it's called the Investment Masters Symposium. Should be fun. If you're there, great. If not, I'll see if I can get this presentation to you guys at some point down the road, or hopefully a week or two where I can get OTA's permission to do it. That said, hope you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day. I will see you all on Thursday. Try not to miss me too much. I don't know what you're going to do with yourselves Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You guys are all so committed to being here. I appreciate your support and you guys being here every single day. I know it's tough to do. So I will miss you as well. I will see you guys on Friday. Take care.